Our next story is about hope coming from tragedy. When a family from here in Hertfordshire lost their son Hector when he was just 18, they were determined some good must come from it. They want to make sure that other families don't suffer what they've been through. And their story is incredibly moving.
We may see harder days than this.
He was full of energy, Heck. I think he really lived in his heart, and I think his energy was just unbelievable.
He was just into life and into having fun and being a little bit crazy, and he was always like that, always. But very lovely chap, very empathetic. He had loads of friends. He listened to all of their stories and their problems.
Right from a tiny child, he was always doing something funny, but also he had a very sort of soft streak in him. He was quite a kind child and adult, actually.
Hector Stringer from Hertfordshire seemed a happy and contented teenager with dreams of becoming a professional musician. But 5 years ago, when he was just 18, Hector took his own life.
We'll never know the actual reason why. It is rarely one particular thing, but it often is one thing that breaks the camel, the straw that breaks the camel's back. So we know that Hector had lots of changes going on. He was at that age, sort of 18, where they're quite vulnerable in any case, and his friends were going off to university. He hadn't done all the coursework he was supposed to be doing. And so there's lots of things. He'd failed his driving test 3 times.
Yeah,
lots of things that added up, and
lots of little things.
And so I think he's feeling quite vulnerable, and we don't know why that on that night he then decided he'd had enough.
The family are determined that out of sadness comes hope, but first they've had to deal with difficult emotions. Do you blame yourselves?
It's very difficult to say, can you blame yourself? Because if we'd known what we know now, would we act differently?
Yes.
I don't know.
That is the difficulty.
So, and you can't. If you go through your life blaming yourself, he would hate that. He would really hate that.
Yeah.
Everything that you go through is like living in your own horror film, but you're in it, and it's your life, and then you have to move forward from that, and you have to go on, and everybody else is normal, and your world has been turned completely upside down.
Hector's family have set up a charity with the aim of raising awareness of the issues of teenage suicide. Sadly, Hector's story is all too common. According to the Office of National Statistics, between 2011 and 2014, 215 people up to the age of 21 in our region took their own lives. Of course, numbers in an official report don't reveal the human stories behind such tragic deaths. Johnny Benjamin could easily have been a statistic himself. 8 years ago, Johnny, who comes from Hertfordshire, tried to take his own life.
I was 20 years old and I'd just been diagnosed with a form of schizophrenia. And I was in hospital at the time. And I just got to the stage where I just thought there's no point going on. I thought I'd never get better. I was embarrassed. I was really embarrassed and ashamed about being in hospital, about being so unwell. And I thought I was a burden on family, on friends. You know, I just really couldn't see any point of going on. And one day in the hospital in January 2008, I just said, that's it, I'm done.
Johnny decided to end his life by jumping off a bridge, but at the very last moment, a stranger intervened and persuaded him not to go ahead.
The real turning point came when he said to me, he said, mate, I believe you can get better. I really believe you can get better. And as I said, you know, when you're in that place, you don't believe you can get better yourself. So for this stranger to come along and to, you know, he knew nothing about me, to put his faith in me and tell me that I'd get better was, that was the real turning point, you know.
The two men have since become good friends. It's not been an easy road to recovery, but Johnny believes that talking about one's problems is such an important thing to do. You're very brave telling me this now. How do you feel talking about it now?
Yeah,
you're talking, you know, on camera. We're talking about this. You know, it's going to go on television. You're talking about something.
It needs to be talked about. You know,
is that the problem? You think the fact that there is such a stigma that people don't talk enough?
I was so embarrassed about talking about my feelings. You know, for so long I kept them inside, I kept them hidden, and this is what happens to so many people, particularly men. And this is why, you know, in the UK there's 17 suicides every single day, because there's this stigma, there's this taboo around suicide, which we need to start talking about.
I go to the pub with my mates, you're right, yeah, I'm all right, yep, and that's it. We would not dare say, I'm feeling I want to cry, because my mate would run a mile. Whereas you girls will probably cry, and you might say, and you'll hug, and you'll have lots of chats. The blokes don't. Really big problem. 78% of all suicides are male.
Robert Stringer and his daughter Lottie have come to the Priory School in Hitchin. Since Hector's death, they're determined to make a difference. They're taking part in a new initiative being run here aimed at raising awareness of the warning signs that could lead to suicide.
Research shows that if you can get into people at a younger age and within schools, within the school network and with peer-to-peer education and talking, that they will do well, and it's what's needed. Youngsters will talk to teachers, but they will also talk to their peers, and that's really where the communication needs to be from a very young age, as young as possible, really.
So,
the pupils here are taking a brand new course on mental health and happiness. They're training to become health advisors who'll be able to help and support other teenagers.
It's a really stressful time for people of our age, especially in like 18, 17-year-olds. You've got exams, trying to manage your social life and your kind of social media profile as well. There's a lot of different types of stress and new types of stresses, and kind of the more you learn about it, the more you know how to cope with things.
At the bottom of the Stringers' garden is a very special place. This shed is where Hector took his life. Everyone now calls it Hector's house, and it's become an important place for family and friends.
It's a strange thing because it's somewhere we come to if we need to, and his friends come to. It was the place that he used to relax in, but it actually is the place where he took his own life, so it's an odd one.
This is still an important place for Hector's friends.
It is.
And it's still a living place. They add to it when they've come or gone, or a memory that they have, and so it's still living. And I think his friends can come here and just be, and just feel like they're close to him as well. So I think that's really important.
We were not prepared for this. As I recall, we didn't have a clue.
One of Hector's friends and former bandmates has written a song in memory of the teenager.
We used to do a lot of writing together, so this was like my first sort of real attempt since meeting him at writing on my own, and that's kind of just what came out, really.
What do you think he'd think of it?
I don't know, I think he'd think it was too sad. We may try to stand and fall down to our knees, like your memory. I still wear you on my sleeve. He had so much energy, he was so happy all the time, or at least seemingly. And we used to talk a great deal, but apparently not about the right things, you know? Yeah.
Well, for support and advice on mental health, you can go to bbc.co.uk/actionline or call 08000 839 839. There's some recorded information there. The lines are open 24 hours a day and they're free from landlines and mobiles.